For many spiritual entrepreneurs, one of the biggest obstacles to creating success in their business is around our relationship to money and sales. The Bible even says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. In Buddhism and Vedic traditions, they talk about the notion of material desires and how they only bring suffering. So it's no wonder, as purpose driven, spiritually oriented people in business, it's so hard, consciously or unconsciously, to get past this stigma around money. Not to mention the fact that regardless of whatever spiritual or religious traditions you come from, there's all sorts of cultural and societal stigma around money that we inevitably have to face as entrepreneurs because this impacts our ability to take action. It also impacts our self-concept and our identity as entrepreneurs. And especially if you're starting out in business, to me, that is one of the biggest transformations that needs to happen if you want to actually start making money. You have to start embracing these identities, these new identities as an entrepreneur. And among those identities, it's the identity of one who sells, of one who collects money and creates profit in their business, right? Like maybe me even saying that is triggering or bringing something up for you. So the whole sales part, that is a huge topic unto itself. So I'm going to save that for another video. But today I wanted to discuss specifically our relationship to money as purpose-driven soul-led entrepreneurs. And I wanted to offer you some perspectives that you maybe will find that work better for you and ultimately serve you better in terms of having a healthy relationship with money, a harmonious one, and one that ultimately allows you to receive more in your business. So I wanted to start off by acknowledging that I've been in this place too. When I started off my first business as a naturopathic doctor, in tandem with that program, I was also training to become a spiritual teacher. And so I was used to doing charity work. I was used to working for free. And I had this notion about entrepreneurship that, I went into this to do my soul work. Like I'm here to serve people. I'm here to help people. And the thought of taking people's money felt so icky. It felt just like, ugh. It felt sleazy. I felt guilty about receiving people's money. And maybe you can relate to that, or maybe you're past that now. But I know definitely some of you out there can relate to this. So I've definitely been there before. And this is really costing you so much in your business. The word cost even is associated with money. And it's important to acknowledge that there is a cost, whether it's financial, emotional, psychological, to your health, that we're paying when we don't have a harmonious relationship with money. And this needs to get addressed in your business ASAP, because the very nature of your business is to generate profit, right? Is to receive more money than the cost of whatever is going out. That is the very definition of business. So how I see this showing up in terms of symptoms and behaviors to my clients and spiritual entrepreneurs in the world is that when we carry money beliefs and attitudes around money that isn't compatible with our spiritual nature, it creates resistance around being visible. Somehow we sabotage our visibility, or we avoid showing up because that kind of subconsciously prevents us from having clients. We don't promote ourselves, or we don't market ourselves. Maybe we have some hangups around the sales part, and how can I go out and invite people to things or offer something and expect them to buy it? We can even sabotage sales. Like maybe you're even in a sales conversation, or you're in the process of offering something, but consciously or unconsciously, you end up sabotaging the sale and losing the sale or turning clients away. We end up becoming passive around the actions that we need to take. Like maybe you're feeling like as a spiritual person, the money should just come to me. And so we're, forever waiting for the miracle moment when somehow magically the clients show up out of the woodwork or some miraculous thing happens and all of a sudden all our money problems are solved and the clients show up and all that kind of thing. So we can get into that fantasy thinking, which causes us to just sit and wait and become really passive. And it can also be reflected in the tendency to undercharge for what we're doing and overgiving. And this can operate in all kinds of really subversive ways. Like, it's interesting to notice how the tendency to undercharge or overgive, or anytime that we're not being totally transparent, right? It's like we need to sell something, or we want to sell something, or we want to offer something, but we're not totally being transparent about the fact that that's what we're doing, right? It's kind of like we want to sneak it in, or we want to kind of like make a sale without acknowledging that we're selling. And as soon as we get into that kind of thing, and I see that so much, especially with entrepreneurs for whom the idea of selling is kind of shameful or seen as kind of impure in some way, you still have to do it. So they end up doing it in a very manipulative and subversive way. And that, I think, is so much worse because you're using tactics that actually it's not very honest and clear with people. You're not being clear within yourself and honest with yourself, and you're not being honest and clear with the other person. So an example of that I've seen, I remember one time I worked with a photographer, and they charged, very low rate, I think, just to get people in the door. But then on the back end, there was a lot of guilt tripping around, oh, but you got all this and you only paid this much. So then you feel like now I have to buy a bunch of stuff, prints and whatnot, because now I need to make up for the fact that you really undercharged me in the first place. And through guilt and manipulation, now I'm going to be obligated to buy more. And thinking about the energy that you're creating in that kind of interaction and relationship with a person, like, wouldn't it be so much better just to charge more upfront and be really clear and transparent about what it's going to be and have it feel like a positive experience rather than making someone feel guilty and kind of obligating them or creating an expectation around purchasing that feels very forced and pressured on the back end because you undercharged? Do you see what I'm saying? So these are all examples of ways that having a disconnected or unhealthy relationship with money can show up in our business. And ultimately, that translates into less money, right? Because if we're not receiving that money, then we're stressed about paying our bills. And, in a general sense, we're living in survival mode. And when you're living in survival mode, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're worried. And you're not creative in that place. You're not really being of service. You're not expressing the fullness of your gift. So there's such a huge price that we pay, not to mention the fact that in the process of waiting or delays or sabotage in all of these forms, we're just putting off the success. We're postponing and delaying it even longer. And that speaks to this aspect of the fact that our lives are finite. Like, how long are we actually going to be on this planet? How long are we actually going to live? You don't have forever, right? We need to get this done sooner rather than later, right? We've got a mission and a curriculum to accomplish in this lifetime. So looking at all of these behaviors, is this really the truest expression of the divine creator? If you're here on the spiritual path to embody the divine, or, to move in that direction, after hearing all of these behaviors, would you say that that is a accurate representation and reflection of the qualities of the creator. In Judaism, having money is actually, as I mentioned, I referenced other religions at the beginning of this video, but in Judaism, having money is actually seen as part of being a spiritual person in the world, because you can't contribute to your community, you can't serve your society if you're struggling to survive, right? It's very, very practical. So to be clear, the issue here is not about the fear of money or around worthiness, or, let's not make this about our trauma. The reason why embracing the reality of dealing with money in your business is so charged is because we've attached some kind of moral judgment onto money. So my question for you now is, what is your moral judgment around money? Maybe, for example, you have an idea that the less money you need, the more pure you are, right? The more spiritual you are. Or that people who have lots of money, people who are rich, are corrupt or unethical. And I'm sure you've seen lots of examples of that in the world that validate that point of view. But maybe you have this feeling that, like, well, if rich people are corrupt, then I can't be rich, right? Because then I'm going to become like them. Or maybe you have a belief that as a spiritual person, if I'm in alignment and I'm doing my soul work in the world, that money should just show up, that I shouldn't have to promote, that I shouldn't have to sell or do any or initiate anything to be able to create money in my business. Maybe that's a belief you hold. Or that if you're a spiritual person and you want material things, or you're focusing on numbers, that you're being superficial, that you don't want to live in scarcity and lack. And the idea of wanting material things or focusing on counting numbers and focusing on goals is an expression of scarcity and lack. And you want to trust that you are abundance, right? So that's an interesting kind of tricky one, because we're kind of taking a fundamental truth and applying it in a way that kind of can create some limitations. So I want to start off by saying that money is inherently neutral. It's not good or bad. It's not superficial or deep. Money doesn't judge us. Only we judge money. We are the judges of money. Okay, so let's just set the record straight around that. And so as soon as we impose this judgment on money, we end up creating a split. We end up creating a false binary between us and money. And anytime we experience that separation, that thing that suddenly becomes outside of us, which is money, means that by definition, we also go into lack and limitation of the ego, that we are in the ego. As soon as we're in a state of separated consciousness or binary consciousness, we are in the ego. And we're in lack and limitation because money is now outside of us and we have to go and get it, right? It's something outside of us that we have to reach for, we have to strive for, we have to get, whether it's through action or through this miracle that's somehow going to happen, but we need it, so we have to get it somehow. So rather than making us more spiritual by rejecting money, when we go into that small ego of lack and limitation, we're actually being less in alignment with the creator, and we're actually repelling money. So this rejection of money keeps us in the state of ego and in that state of lack, which takes us further away from embodying the creator. We know that the creator is abundance, the creator is whole, the creator lacks for nothing. So here I have a few money reframes for you to try on for size. And these are some of the fundamental principles that I share with my clients and that I live by as well, that have really helped me on my journey around embracing and developing a healthy relationship with money so that I can let it in, right? So that I can take away that barrier and that wall between me and money and allow it to flow into my life. So the first one is money is inherently neutral. Money is neutral energy. It's not spiritual, and it's not spiritual or unspiritual. It simply responds to our energy. You know, I've used this example in one of my workshops before of red light and green light energy, right? That when we are in a state of a frequency of the divine, a high frequency, a frequency of abundance, of receiving, of gratitude, money flows in. And when we're in a red light energy, it's kind of like thinking about cars at an intersection, right? When it's a green light, they go through. When it's a red light, they stop. So when we're in a red light energy, we're in lack and scarcity, and it's wrong, and this is shameful, and I don't want this, and I don't like this. So when we're in that red energy, we're repelling money, right? So money is neutral, and it simply just responds to our energy, whether we're receptive and in a state of openness and gratitude, or whether we are repelling it in some way. And I've had the great privilege of interacting with a lot of really high level business owners making, between $500,000, $1 million, or multi-million dollars in their businesses. And this was such a huge eye opener for me to actually meet them and talk to them and see that they're among some of the most spiritual people I have ever met. So acknowledging that, yes, there absolutely are wealthy people in the world that are corrupt. There are also very spiritual people in the world who have a lot of money. So it's important to remember that. The next thing that I want to talk about is the fact that, or the next reframe, is that this material world exists for us to enjoy. And money happens to be the energy exchange that we use on this planet, right? That in the world we live in, when you offer a service, money is exchanged. That's how we do it, rather than bartering or any other form of energy exchange. This is the currency of value that we use, and maybe that's going to change sometime in the future. But it's a reality. If we're in business, we have to work with money, and that the material world itself exists for us to enjoy, that we are here to enjoy wearing nice clothes and going on vacations and having nice things. Like, we have five senses for a reason, so that we can experience life and experience the world. And it's actually through the enjoyment, have a really delicious cup of coffee, or eat something that you really love to eat. And the enjoyment and the gratitude of that actually invites more light of the divine. It actually expands your capacity to receive more. And in Kabbalah, they say, the clothes that you wear are the light that surrounds you. Are you wearing clothes that make you feel really good about yourself, that reflect how you value yourself and the dignity that you have? Or do your clothes have holes in them? And that carries a very different energy. Like, you want to have nice things because it just mirrors back the truth of the value of who you are. And I know for myself, the place that I'm living in now, when we moved in here, it was such an upgrade from the home that we lived in before. Just being in this environment, surrounded by the beautiful layouts and the finishes and everything, it uplifts my consciousness to be in that environment. And isn't that really the purpose of all these things, is to uplift our consciousness? A lot of us have a stigma around desiring something, having, like, how dare I want to have a nice house, or want to have nice clothes, or want to have a nice car? But the fact, you have to ask yourself, where does that desire come from? Isn't it coming from the divine? Because the very fact that you desire something means that it wants you, it's calling to you, or you wouldn't have had that desire in the first place. So feeling ashamed about wanting material things or to enjoy nice things, it doesn't serve anybody. It really doesn't. And this, you know, there are monastic traditions and paths of asceticism and things like that that renounce all this material wealth, and that is another path that people can live. But and that's a choice to make, that when you strip down your life, yes, essentially it's a way of kind of cutting out anything that can distract you from your spiritual path. But I really believe that the most challenging way to live in the world and evolve as a spiritual person on the spiritual path is to live in the world, right? To be a part of the world, to be a part of all the opportunities and desires, and, you know, to have to confront all of the temptation that we might face in the world, and that through that we're actually becoming stronger on the spiritual path rather than just shutting everything away, because the very nature of the universe itself is to expand, is to allow for more, to experience it all and to know that it all belongs to you. So yeah, I think that sometimes this idea of being spiritual and ascetic and renouncing everything can get misinterpreted in a way that really doesn't serve us. But of course, you can decide for yourself where you stand with that. So the third reframe I wanted to share is money is the energy of commitment. So this one often blows my clients' minds. So you could think about having an offer that you sell for $20, let's say, and then having another offer that you sell for $10,000. Which one do you think is going to create a bigger transformation in your client? The $20 one or the $10,000 one? The $10,000 one. Why? Well, you could say that part of it comes from the fact that, like, wow, well, if I have to come up with $10,000, I better be very invested and committed and showing up and receiving. Sure, that's absolutely part of it. But if you look at it, if you remember that money is energy, the fact that you are giving $10,000 of energy units to this person or this company to receive, with an intention to receive something, to grow, to receive a transformation in some way, you could think of that is an offering to the divine. That is an offering to the universe, saying, I am this committed to having this transformation. I am this ready to receive. Versus a tiny or a small financial investment is a reflection of a small commitment, a small level of receptivity. So what if you thought about it that way? That the amount of money that you pay is a reflection of your commitment and the level of transformation that you're ready to receive, or conversely for your clients, that when you charge a higher rate, you're actually inviting your clients to give to themselves to receive an even bigger result and bigger transformation. And what if you saw it that way, rather than seeing it as I'm getting them to pay me money, that I'm inviting them to open up something inside of them that's going to allow them to receive the big transformation and the big payoff. That kind of connects to sales a little bit. So we got a little sneak preview of that. So the next money reframe is money is necessary for service and impact. So this goes back to this idea of being in survival mode, and how if you want to serve a lot of people in the world, if you want to serve the masses, you need to have money, right? You need to have money to travel. You need to have money to pay your bills so that you're not worrying about that stuff, so you can focus on the more important things that you have to do. You have to have money to pay team members and staff, maybe delegate some of your, household chores and whatnot to other people who can take that over so that you can do your work in the world. Like, the more of an impact and the more leadership you want to have in the world, the more you need money to fund that, right? Any nonprofit organization in the world, any service-based organization in the world is working with lots and lots and lots of money because they need it to do their work. You can't do charity with an empty bowl. The fifth reframe is that money is an amplifier. So money will amplify however you are as a person. If you are a corrupt person, then money will make you more corrupt. But if you're the kind of person, and I've had this happen sometimes where a client is really, I can tell they're resisting receiving money, and they're genuinely concerned that if I have more money, I'm going to become a corrupt person, and I'm going to be like those people I hate, and I can't trust them. The very fact that you're worried about becoming corrupt about money, by definition, indicates that you're not going to allow yourself to be corrupted. And this is a matter of not trusting yourself. And that is why this is such a beautiful journey. This is why people don't go from making $100 a month to $50,000 a month. Life does not allow that to happen. The divine is very intelligent, and the divine takes you in a step-by-step journey and evolution of expanding to receive more, which brings me to my next point, my next reframe, which is the amount of money you hold as a spiritual entrepreneur is a byproduct of the amount of power and responsibility that you hold, right? The amount of power that you hold responsibly. And this connects to one of my billboard messages in my business, which is full expression is financial freedom. That spiritualizing money is one of the most sophisticated ways that we can avoid taking responsibility. That money responds to our soul desire, our commitment, and our ability to follow through, right? Money is one part of business and life that we have to take responsibility for. We have to tend to it. And the more we learn to focus on it and tend to it and take responsibility for it, to follow through on the actions required, the more we can hold. The more we can hold responsibly, the more power we can hold, and then the more impact we can have. So spiritual work in business isn't about becoming less focused on money. It's about becoming more available, more fully expressed around the responsibility, the leadership, and the impact that we're actually here to make. Because when you're in service to truth, money stops being about you and your relationship to it, and it just becomes one aspect of the garden. If your business is a garden, it's just one aspect of the garden that needs to be attended to, it needs to be taken care of, right? It doesn't become this emotionally charged thing. It's like, okay, here are the numbers. These are our goals. These are what we're working towards. How do I take action to be able to show up to receive that? Because in business, it's just miracles and money might fall from the sky, but more often than not, especially if you want to create consistent income in your business, money involves being visible in some way, right? You have to be known so people know you exist. And there has to be some kind of offer, right? You have to offer something, and then you have to sell it. You have to receive money for that offer. So without these fundamental components of business, it's really hard to receive money. And the more that you take full responsibility for that, and this is what I was kind of talking to at the beginning around the identity shift, when you really claim your identity as, I am a soul-led entrepreneur, and part of being a soul-led entrepreneur is that I share my gifts and I put myself out there in the world and I make invitations and I offer programs to the right people when it's a great fit, and I receive the money in exchange because that's why the business exists. And my clients are demonstrating their commitment and the energy in the form of money, and in order to receive that transformation that is so valuable that I provide, right? And just embracing and owning all of it and not having shame or guilt or anything around your ability to act in the ways that are necessary for the business to actually create the transformation and the results that it's here to create, right? To have the impact that you're here to have in the world. And then that when you get to that place, that's when you realize that money in abundance is really just a byproduct of you showing up fully expressed to serve that mission, right? So I wanted to leave you with that billboard message, right? Full expression is financial freedom. When you fully realize that the money and the abundance that you want in your life, the fulfillment that you want in your life, is just the consequence of you showing up fully in service to that mission. So thank you so much for watching today. If you found this video valuable at all, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you can receive more valuable videos like this to help you grow your soul-led business. And as today, as an action step, I would love to hear in the comments which money reframe spoke to you the most from this video. So I'm going to recap them one more time. The first one is money is neutral energy, and it simply responds to our energy. The second, the material world exists for us to enjoy, and money is just an energy exchange on this planet. The third, money is the energy of commitment. Fourth, money is necessary for service and impact in the world. The fifth, money is an amplifier. Money just amplifies how you are. And just to add to that a little bit too, if you're a spiritual person, if you're an honest person, money is just going to amplify that. It's just going to allow you to do more good work in the world, right? And then the last one is, as someone on the spiritual path, that money is the byproduct of you holding a higher level of power, responsibility, and impact. So yeah, thanks again for watching. And I can't wait to hear your comments and shares, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.